Welcome back to Walking Phrase, where we tackle the odd and peculiar things around language. Say, have you ever heard of this Cumberbatch guy? Who are we kidding? Of course you have. And you'll be happy to hear that this episode will partially be about him, his odd surname, and other ways to express your family connections. On 31st of January 2014, BuzzFeed reported Stacey Cumberbatch as the newly appointed New York City Commissioner of Citywide Administrative Services. Apparently, she shares her surname with Tumblr darling and British actor Benedict Cumberbatch. Coincidence? The universe is hardly so lazy. Let's deduce. Stacey Cumberbatch's roots lie in Barbados. From the 17th century on, Barbados was owned by the British Crown and used for sugar production, and many African slaves were forced to do the hard work on the colonial plantations. As it was custom, slaves were assigned with the surname of their owners, and the owners of Stacey's ancestors were, well, it doesn't exactly take a super sleuth to figure that out. Still to this day, many citizens of Barbados call themselves Cumberbatch, and Benedict Cumberbatch himself confirmed in an interview that some of his ancestors were, in fact, slave owners. By the way, the surname derives from a place called Cumberbatch, a village in Cheshire, England. A coombe is Old English for valley, so a cumber is a dweller in a valley. Batch is Old English for stream, so Cumberbatch or Cumberbatch simply means dweller in a valley with a stream. Besides using locations as surnames, it was very common to form the surname after the first name of the father to differentiate between Johns, Jeans or Ivans. These kind of surnames are called patronyms. Take for example Scandinavia. Many people there have a surname that ends with son or sen. If you were called Sven Hansson, it just meant Sven, son of Hans. The Icelandics still build their surnames after this model. Obviously, women are called daughter of Egil, Atle, what have you, like Anna Egilsdottir. But unlike the typical surnames, these patronyms are not passed on through the generations, but rather indicate who your actual father is. However, this rule is not as strict anymore. Thanks to new forms of families like single parents or gay couples, as well as personal choice, it's possible to form a surname after the mother's name, so-called metronyms. In Sweden, the four most common surnames are Andersson, Johansson, Karlsson and Nilsson, which is relatively boring. In recent years, more and more Swedes get rid of the son suffix, either by using the mother's or grandmother's maiden names or by inventing new names. Who wouldn't want to be called Moon Troll or Steering Bear? Speaking of overly common surnames, if you know a Vietnamese person, chances are that their family name is Nguyen. 38% of the Vietnamese population bears the surname Nguyen, and no, they're not all related. The name Nguyen stems from Mandarin Chinese ruan, a plucked string instrument. But fondness for music doesn't explain the prevalence of the name. Several events in Vietnamese history have contributed to the name's prominence. They mostly have to do with violent overturns of dynasties. To put it simply, Vietnamese emperors tend to kill the descendants of the preceding dynasty. So, if people wanted to hide possible connections to the former rulers and avoid a violent death, they would change their surname often enough to Nguyen. Or, the new rulers forced people to change their name to cut ties with the old dynasty. Again, often enough to Nguyen. This happened first in mid-13th century, then in the beginning of the 14th century, and at the end of the 16th century. We don't know why they favored Nguyen over other surnames. When the actual Nguyen dynasty took power in 1802, descendants of the Jin lords changed their surname to Nguyen to, avoid a violent death. To add more confusion, the Nguyen dynasty also awarded many people with the same surname, and so many changed their names to receive benefits. After all this name changing, we actually have to be grateful that it's not 90% of Vietnamese people that are called Nguyen today. That's it for this time. Thank you for watching this episode of Walking Phrase. If you have a question about language, please leave a comment below. You can also contact us on Twitter and Tumblr. And if you want to keep learning more about linguistic conundrums, please make sure to subscribe.